Hey, in this video I want to talk to you about Aristotle and Maslow. Aristotle lived more than 2,000 years ago. Maslow about, less than 100 years ago. Aristotle, there was no field of psychology back in Aristotle's time, but he was very, very, very astute. Now, he had been taught by Plato, who had been taught by Socrates. Maslow is a modern psychologist, or what I would call modern. Other people might not. Because psychology is brand new the last 100 years. Modern psychology is anyway. So with Aristotle watched society, watched art, and came up with 3 appeals. And these 3 appeals are logos, pathos, and ethos. What these mean, and you can say logos if you want, you can say pathos if you want, or pathos, you can say ethos, you can say ethos. It doesn't really matter, because who speaks Latin anymore? Nobody does. But logos means logic. Pathos or pathos means emotion. And ethos or ethos means ethics. And that's what Aristotle noticed in his lifetime, is that to persuade people, you need to use a combination of all of these things: logic, emotion, and ethics. If you watch any State of the Union address, that's what's being used. All 3 are being used when the person, or any speech, when the person understands what he or she is talking about. So think about, if you want to persuade someone, how are you going to use logic? How will you back it up and document it? How will you use emotion? How will you use ethics? For example, we could say that if we wanted to argue for people to vaccinate their babies, that we could say, look, science says that vaccinations work, and you love your child, and you do not want your child to die. That would be ethics right there. We want all children to live. So make sure you're taking notes on this. Now Maslow comes along, and he's in a long tradition of psychology that talks about what is wrong with people. And Maslow breaks that mold and talks about what is right with people, what makes people be able to reach the pinnacle of their abilities. And he develops what's known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And he puts it in a nice way where you have kind of a pyramid. At the very, very top of it is self-actualization. And that is when a human being has fulfilled all of his or her potential. I need to switch colors, I think. The next level that he identifies is self-esteem needs. Now, if you are self-actualized, it would mean that you have all these building blocks to become that. A self-actualized person doesn't speed because that person is afraid of getting a ticket when they're driving the car. That person doesn't speed because that person wants to protect other people. That person who is self-actualized spends time helping the community, spends time creatively, making art, making policy, making our world a better place. Then we have social needs. Right here at the base of it is safety. Our safety needs. And down here at the very, very base is physiological needs, which is a fancy way of saying that in order for a person to realize his or her potential, you need to know that you have clean drinking water, you have shelter, you have clothing, you have food. Those are the physiological needs. Safety means that you don't have to worry about that you're going to be attacked during the night. You don't have to worry if you go down to the local store that you're going to be shot in the street. Now, when a hurricane comes, all of these are wiped out because your physiological needs are threatened and your safety needs are threatened. And you can't get a hold of the people you love, and so you can't fulfill your full potential. How many of you have ever tried studying for an exam during a hurricane, for example? It's very hard to concentrate when you're worried about what's going to happen next. Or with a global pandemic, it's very, very hard to feel like your safety is being met because you walk around thinking, I wonder if that person's going to give it to me, or I wonder if I'm going to give my grandmother the virus too. Very hard to fulfill your potential that way. And so Maslow talks about what is right with people and what people need in order to embrace their whole lives, in order to have a good life. Your social needs. You have to have people besides your family, probably, in order to talk to them, and it's your group that you surround yourself with. Now, abusers, domestic abusers, want to cut that one off because they understand that if you cut off this social need, make it forbidden, that then the person is more easily manipulated. So if you're in that kind of relationship, get the fuck out. Okay? And then your self-esteem. You have to feel like you're a good person in order to actually create and contribute more. Now, if you have people in your circle who are constantly cutting you down, they're going to take away your self-esteem. But if you can get up to this pinnacle right here, where you're self-actualized, where you don't have to worry about food or water or housing or clothing, where you feel safe and you feel comfortable, you're not anxious, where you can interact with the people that give you energy instead of the people who suck it from you, where you have a good feeling about yourself, then and only then can you act. Now, I taught a student who was, I think, 22 or 23 at the time, who said to me in the assignment that he was at self-actualization. That student didn't have a job. That student lived with his mom. That student didn't even know what he wanted to do with his life. That's not self-actualization. This pyramid, and I told him that. I said, look, dude, this is your circumstances. You're not taking care of yourself. You're being provided a roof and food. But that does not mean that you can jump all the way up to here. This takes some time to get into that space. And really, for me, what I would like is for all humans to become self-actualized. I would love for all people's physical needs, safety needs, social needs, and self-esteem needs to be fulfilled. But I don't have a magic wand. I am not Harry Potter. And even in Harry Potter's world, what do we have? Safety needs are often betrayed. Even though they're at a school that provides a roof over their heads, and even though that school provides the food, it provides everything. But if you don't have safety, you can't get all the way up here to defeat Voldemort. And it's not just about defeating anybody, it's that up here when you have self-actualization, you have the time and the energy to help your community, to help others. So I want you to remember this Maslow's hierarchy of needs when you're persuading people. Because if you have an argument where you're arguing that we need cleaner water, that comes right down to physiological needs and safety needs. If you're arguing that people should be accepting of gay people, we need to talk about social needs and self-esteem, plus the rest of it. You need to think about this as you're talking, as well as Aristotle's three appeals: pathos, ethos, and logos. Thank you.